My name is Renata. I live in New Jersey. Before cancer, I was really into working out, jogging, traveling. I like to go out with my friends. That's that was pretty much my life before cancer. I started to get tired, symptoms like fatigue, and I thought, oh, maybe I've been working too much. I also became short of breath maybe a few weeks later. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. Anyway, on March 4th, I found out that I was pregnant. So that kind of put everything together. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I'm pregnant. But I had this feeling, even when I found out that I was pregnant, that something wasn't right. And I couldn't put my fingers on it, but it was just this weird foreboding experience. I think that was, due to the fatigue and, my body was just out of it. I was pregnant. I kept telling my OBGYN, like, hey, I'm having nausea, fevers, like, what's going on? I got diagnosed with the ear infection once. And then they put me on this anti-nausea medication and it didn't seem to help. It just got worse. And I'm like, I didn't know pregnancy was this bad. Like, I got to the point where usually I walk my dog every day. I was out of breath, walking him. At work, my work suffered because I could not concentrate and I was tired all of the time. And and so it just snowballed, it just got worse and worse. And, I just chalked it up as just, pregnancy. I do remember one night saying to my husband, I feel like I'm dying, and he probably thought I was being a little melodramatic, but like, that's how I felt. Like, I was just so tired and I couldn't get enough rest. Even if I would sleep 10 hours, it felt like I didn't sleep at all. I didn't find out until I went to my OBGYN, and you know how they do a whole battery of tests. So they took like 15, 20 vials of blood, and the next day they called me back, and the nurse, it was a very weird conversation. She was like, hey, she was like, your white blood count came back high and we can't deal with that here. And I'm like, we can't deal with that. Like, it was just the way she said it and her voice, it kind of told me that something, something wasn't right. So I'm like, okay, what should it be? And she said it should be, I think, 4 to 11. I was like, okay, what is mine? 37.8. And I was like, oh, that has to be a mistake. While I'm talking to her, my primary doctor calls and he's like, Renata, I just got a call from your OBGYN. The doctor was like, yeah, I think you need to go to the hospital. He said, I'm going to call a hematologist. And I'm like, okay, hematologist, I know what they do, like a blood disorder. So I'm thinking, okay. And I was like, okay. And I was like, could this be like autoimmune disease? Like maybe I have lupus or, and he was like, no, I don't think it's that, but, we'll call you back. And he called back and he was like, go to the ER in Philadelphia. And I'm an hour from Philadelphia. And I did not know what
was going on.
Yeah. And, as we drove there, I did Google high white blood count. And the first thing that came up was leukemia. But I said, I know I don't have leukemia. So, I'm not worried. That night I had a doctor come in and she told me, it was just like, in a movie. She sat next to my bed and, and I'm like, what is she about to tell me? Like,
I need space.
Right. And she was like, you have some type of blood cancer. And I couldn't believe it. Like it was, I, I said that, no, I said, I'm pregnant. And she's like, yeah, you have some type of blood cancer. You're going to meet with an oncologist. And, it just, I was in shock.
You're sitting there, all these things have just happened in a span of like hours, really. I mean, you had this test done, all of a sudden it was, oh, your white blood cell count is too high. We can't deal with it. We're going to pass you on. And then, you're getting a call from another doctor. Finally, you end up, at the hospital an hour away, and you're pregnant and feeling pregnancy too. And then this doctor you don't even know, you've never met, comes and is like, hey, I mean, can you just, and says, hey, you have a blood cancer. Can you just rewind? This is last year, to like what was going through your mind, if anything at all, what you were feeling?
I know cancer, like 40, I think that the statistics are 40% of us will get it. I know that, but I felt that, I took care of myself. I didn't eat red meat, all of the things that they say, oh, that helps, for you to stay healthy. And that went through my mind. Like I did this and that. Like I was like, I don't smoke. I can't have, a blood cancer. That was I didn't believe it. I've never felt that feeling before. And I never want to feel it again, because it just, whereas I don't think that I cried, because I just stared at her like, are you serious? Yeah. So that was, it was just disbelief and panic a little because of the baby, but I didn't want to think too much about it because I didn't believe the diagnosis. The one doctor told me, she's like, we'd rather wait to start chemo when you're in the second trimester. And I was like, okay. She's like, but we talked to oncology and they said you would not make it that long.